Good evening. I'm Dr. Pamela Phoenix, and welcome to the Let's Talk Shreveport show, hosted by To Our Destiny Community Development Corporation. We are so glad that you all are joining us this evening, and I'd like to welcome our guest panelist, Miss Lori McGahee, the Executive Director for FREE, the Coalition to End Human Trafficking, and she graciously accepted the invitation to discuss unveiling the shadow of human trafficking. Lori, please take a minute to introduce yourself to the virtual audience.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be here this evening, and thank you to Dr. Phoenix for inviting me to join her tonight. Like she said, my name is Lori McGahee. I spent 39 years in the juvenile justice system, the last 15 as the chief probation officer at the juvenile court right here in Caddo Parish. And I've been doing human trafficking work for probably about 20 years now. And when I retired from the juvenile court in 2024, I started a nonprofit called FREE, the Coalition to End Human Trafficking in Northwest Louisiana, and have been doing a lot of work in that area since then, and also working on the Governor's Human Trafficking Commission and Advisory Board, which is statewide work, which is also very exciting, and also have been able to do some national work as well.
That is absolutely wonderful, Lori. And I mean, I know it's such a rewarding endeavor. The conference that I went to, that you invited me to, it just blessed my soul. So I can't wait to hear all the information you're going to share with us this evening. Just a summary of the discussion would reveal that we are looking at unveiling the shadow of human trafficking, being an eye-opening show into one of the most pressing and underreported issues of our time, human trafficking. And it's a gripping session that brings you real stories, expert insights, and inspiring voices from those fighting on the front lines like Lori. We'll dive deeply into different aspects of human trafficking, shedding light on its complexities and the impact it has on individuals and communities worldwide. So from sex trafficking to labor exploitation, we'll uncover the stories that need to be heard. And you can also learn how you can become a part of the solution as we discuss ways to recognize and prevent trafficking, support victims, and advocate for change. So, Lori, you are the absolute expert when it comes to human trafficking. Can you start off by just telling us what are some of the most common forms of human trafficking that's happening globally today and how they may differ by region?
Absolutely. The most common form and what most people hear about and are familiar with is sex trafficking. And if you've been watching the news lately, you've seen a lot of attention focused on human trafficking due to the Epstein stories and his co-conspirators and people that have been convicted that also worked with him. But pretty close to home, there's been a couple of arrests made here locally with human trafficking. Recently, there was a bail bondsman that was arrested for 4 counts of juvenile sex trafficking. And then there was also another arrest here recently for human trafficking. So it's drawing a lot more attention now that these arrests are making the news.
So individuals are actually stealing people. In its most simplistic form, people are stealing people.
Yes, absolutely. And some people refer to it as modern day slavery because people are being enslaved. They are being forced to perform sexual acts and also work labor trafficking for little to no money, which is a form of slavery and bondage.
So when you said, individuals have gotten arrested when it comes to this, what are the charges? Are they specific human trafficking charges, or is it a kidnap charging, or what is it?
What we're seeing more of now is specific human trafficking charges. Um, in the past, you may see something close to pandering or a sex related charge, or you may see something like domestic abuse battery or something of that nature. But our law enforcement and also people that prosecute these cases have become much more savvy and much more educated on human trafficking, and they are now able to find traffickers and actually get them charged
Oh,
with the crimes that they're committing instead of having to rely on some other type of charge that they could more easily prove. Now they're finding proof, they're getting proof. People are more willing to testify against these perpetrators, and so it's easier for law enforcement and prosecutors to build a case.
okay. Okay. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. So, who are the most vulnerable populations to human trafficking, and what social or economic factors contribute to their being a risk? I mean, we have everything from the privileged individuals, and I'm not just talking about kids, grown women, grown men also, right?
Yes,
Every
absolutely. Yes.
category of person can be trafficked.
It can happen really to anybody at any time. That's the scary thing. Anyone can be vulnerable. Anyone can be kidnapped and taken, which that does happen. But what we see more commonly are vulnerable populations that are being exploited by people who are very manipulative and savvy and creative when it comes to grooming them and drawing them into the life of sex trafficking or labor trafficking. And again, any age, any race, any socioeconomic level can be a victim, but what they mostly look for are the most vulnerable in our population, people that have mental health issues, people that have substance abuse issues, people that are living in poverty and do not have their basic needs met.
Oh,
And these exploiters look for those people that are most vulnerable so that they can exploit those vulnerabilities and then use those people in any way that they see fit.
Lord, this is a real eye opener to me. When I attended your conference, the guest speaker that you that had experience human sex trafficking was a school age girl. Beautiful testimony. But the way she said the person trapped her is by feeding into whatever it was that was going on in her life, making her feel comfortable with them, become boyfriend, girlfriend, to the extent that she leaves, goes take money out of her mom's account and takes her car and drives off. So that specific scenario versus you saying now, those that are dependent on drugs, those that don't have enough money to take care of themselves, these
Yes,
people are being snatched and put into sex trafficking, labor exploitation, all of that.
yes. The scary part is that a lot of us are online. We all have smartphones, we all have internet,
Mm-hmm.
chat rooms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, all of these internet sites. People don't even realize that children can be in danger from gaming with live chat because they might be talking to someone that they don't even know, and this person could be a trafficker. and they groom people so subtly that they don't know it's happening. The young woman that you're speaking about, Lindsay, who was groomed totally online by her trafficker and completely convinced that he was in love with her and wanted to take care of her. She was 14 years old when she took her mother's car and drove from Dallas, Texas, all the way to Los Angeles by herself to meet this person she had only met online. And it turned out to be a trafficker. And she was about 2 days away from being shipped off to Mexico and would have never been heard from again. And luckily, her parents were able to hire a detective to find her and
Mm.
rescue her out of that situation before she was sent to Mexico. Now, that's really scary, and parents need to be very aware of what their children are doing online and in these chat rooms and gaming with live chat and on their phones because the predators, the traffickers, the exploiters, they know where to find everybody that they want to exploit, and they know how to find the most vulnerable and then how to groom them in.
Okay. So Lindsay was a young lady in school.
Yes,
So she was a
yes.
student.
And fortunately, she is living a wonderful life now.
Yes. Yes.
So
Got
she's one of the
married.
lucky ones that got
Oh
out.
Lord. Oh Lord. I tell you, that it was so good to hear that that was a happy ending. But we don't have a lot of happy endings, right?
We don't. We've lost some girls. We've had young ladies that I've worked with and my team has worked with that have come up missing, and we still have no idea where they are. We've had some young ladies that have actually been murdered by their pimp, and we're talking about young girls, juveniles, that my team and I have worked with. And
When you
that,
say worked with, in what
yes,
capacity?
working with these young ladies, getting them out of their situation, providing
Yes.
services, making sure they're getting trauma counseling, making sure that they're getting an education, that type thing, so that they can get a better way of life.
So you're helping them to reassociate themselves with normal living, and then they come up missing a murder?
Yes.
Oh, gee. Oh, Lord.
It just broke my heart
Mm.
to lose these young ladies and to know that their lives were over at such a young age.
You know, Laura, just talking about this, we all, I don't know if we all, my opinion is, when we think of human sex trafficking, we think of young women of any denomination, um, our culture, and we see the movies where the black van pull up, they jump out the back, snatch them, throw them in a van, is gone. So but hearing this, like with Lindsay, met this guy on social media, started having a conversation, which, I mean, they have dating and all of that stuff on Facebook.
Yeah,
And not knowing that you're putting yourself in this type of danger. So, what would you tell people? And again, I don't want to just generalize and say only young girls get trafficked. What is it for us not to be so paranoid to never let our kids go outside? I have a 16-year-old grandson that, they want to have their little liberty and go out by themselves with their friends and all
mhm,
of that. But a chance might come up where somebody snatch them.
yeah. That's the scary part is, unfortunately, there is a market for boys in sex trafficking and even young boys. There are places in this world where children are taken and the predators, the pedophiles can actually ask for what they want. They may want a certain type of child with certain hair color, eye color, that sort of thing.
Oh,
And there's a market, and we know when there's a demand
there's
for
a
something, there's going to be a supply,
Lord.
right?
Lord.
So we as adults have to be very aware of the predators in our world. I can remember growing up, as a small child, and our parents telling us, don't take candy from strangers and be aware of strangers and don't venture, too far away from home when we were out playing. And the world was a safer place, it seemed back then.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not as safe anymore. And parents have to be aware, grandparents have to be aware um, that our children are in danger, that the predators are there. They're in our area, they're in Northwest Louisiana, they're in our state. And our children have to be very smart about who they become friends with. Parents need to know who their child's friends are, who the child's parents are. They need to know what their children are doing online. And I think that's what has created the bigger danger is it's not just person to person anymore that we make friends and meet people. It's online and
Mm-hmm.
it's virtual, and we may not even know who we're talking to. Just a quick story. There were two boys that lived close to Atlanta, Georgia, that were on gaming with live chat, and they were mad at their parents about something and wanted, to get to go do something that their parents thought they weren't ready to do, and they decided they were going to run away.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking with a man on gaming with live chat, and they started kind of fussing a little bit about their parents and saying, "Oh, our parents won't let us do anything." And he said, "Oh, well, y'all could come and stay with me for a little while and you can get to do the things you want to do. And I'll even make sure that, you get some work and you can make a little money." And he sent them bus tickets.
Lord have mercy.
And they
Mhm.
were
And then,
14, so they were not real smart about it. And they got on a bus and were headed toward Fort Worth, Texas.
Lord,
Fortunately, their parents reported them missing. The police were able to track their cell phones, and
Lord,
the bus stopped in Shreveport,
mm,
fortunately, and the police were able to get them off the bus,
Lord, thank
found
you.
out where they were going, and they were headed to a known sex trafficker in Fort Worth. That's how quickly that happened. This all happened within 24 hours.
Lord. Now, when you say gaming chats, I'm not into all of that technology. Gaming chats, is that like you're online and you're playing dominoes or something like that?
Oh, no, when you're on like Xbox or, the Nintendos, well,
Oh,
you can get on the internet and
okay.
you can actually connect to other gamers.
Oh, and you can talk.
Yes, you can talk. You have a headset on and you can
Wow.
talk with other gamers while you're
And
and
you
and
and you hear their voices and all of that?
yes. Yes, and it could be anybody anywhere in the world.
Oh, that's scary. I
That is
didn't I
very
didn't know
scary.
that exists. I thought the most I know, I just buy the kids Xboxes. I don't know how any of that work. But
Yeah.
I just thought, you have an Xbox, you buy a game, you put it in there, it come up on the TV and you just play. So
Yes.
they have really evolved when it comes to
Yes.
gaming.
They
And
really
that's why so
have.
many adults game now, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so we understand you've stated that's one of the avenues or the vehicles that they utilize to psychologically manipulate the victims. What role does technology play in both facilitating the trafficking and the efforts to combat it? Which one is on it sounds like the gaming has it beat versus the technology to combat it. Do we have anything in place to combat it from a technological aspect?
We do. The technology has just come such a long way. And before technology, if you wanted to find someone in the sex industry, you had to go looking. physically. You had to go where they were
Mm-hmm.
and actually find someone. And as the technology has advanced, we know that most of the deals are made online now.
Mm-hmm.
Ads are placed onto certain websites. A lot of the dark web is involved. But people that are looking for that type of activity know where to look, and they know which websites to go to, or they just do a general search, and unfortunately it'll come up. So since a lot of it's done online now, law enforcement has people that actually watch the internet, and the FBI has, they can watch the dark web and they can actually find and locate people that are being trafficked. And what they're really looking for a lot of times is juveniles that are being trafficked. And the fact that their ads are online, the law enforcement can find them and also find people that are looking for that type of activity, and many times can also find the pimps that are putting these ads. They can track those ads to the person that placed them. Unfortunately, there are ways that pimps can fly under the radar
Hmm.
and not get caught. And that is by appointing someone that they trust, a woman that may have been with them for a very long time, called a bottom bee
Hmm.
or bottom bitch. And that sounds like the person who's the lowest on the totem pole, but it really isn't. She's second in command for the pimp. And a lot of times, this woman also recruits other young women and children to come into the lifestyle. And many, many times, the woman, the bottom, is the one paying for the ad. She's the one whose credit card is on the ad, and she's the one whose credit card is used to book the room in the hotel. So
Mm-hmm.
guess who gets arrested
Her.
when the bus goes down? She
Mm-hmm.
does. And the pimp scurries away without being arrested.
Mm-hmm. That is absolutely insane. And so tell me this, Lori, with the individuals that you all help, what's been the youngest?
Oh my goodness. The youngest victim that I've personally ever worked with was 4 years old.
Oh, Lord. Oh,
Heartbreaking. Yes.
oh,
She
oh.
and her 6-year-old sister were being trafficked by their own mother. And but that's unfortunately that's not as common as we've seen victims that young, but we've also seen 10, 11, 12 into the teenage years. Um, we've even had a victim that we've worked with that was 60.
60?
Yes. So,
Okay.
like I said, it can be anybody at any time.
Okay. So we have a 4-year old, and the
Yeah.
mother is doing the trafficking. And what is the actual activity of trafficking? How do you get, you said a pimp one time, and then there's trafficking another time. So, what's the activity that goes to designate this as trafficking, and this is just prostitution or something?
With the 4 and 6-year-old, we usually call that familial trafficking because the person's being trafficked by a family member. We also had a situation where there was a 17-year-old boy that was trafficking his younger sister and some of her friends. So that's familial trafficking. Um, there's been, different family members that have trafficked people that they're related to. And so it's not an outside pimp that's coming in and grooming someone. It's actually a family member that's forcing the issue. We've also seen teenage girls that will, if you can say consent, because it's not really consent, they're not lawfully able to consent,
Mhm.
but they will actually consent to this activity to keep their families from being evicted or being able to buy food or pay the bills. That's the way they survive. And that's so sad that our society, we're in 2025, and no one should be in that situation where they're having to traffic their own child just to survive and pay their bills.
Okay, so the one with the 4-year-old and the 6-year-old, and again, please help me understand. Because I'm from the 60s. So, and we even saw on TV, where they play there the pimp and she's a prostitute and all of that stuff. But now this term trafficking, I'm still trying to understand. Is trafficking when you cross over lines? Or are you doing it in a region or something like that versus somebody just having a pimp and she goes out and stand on the corner or whatever and, make money?
Try to reframe your beliefs about prostitution into a new frame. Some people feel like if this is an adult, that they are choosing this life or
Okay.
choosing this activity.
Okay.
Reframe that and think, did this woman, and a grown woman, choose that life? When she was a little girl, did she say, I want to be a prostitute when I grow up? Probably not.
Mm,
Something has happened to this woman, probably sexual abuse as a child,
mm,
maybe even trafficking as a child and a teenager and a young adult. And now it's a natural progression into adult prostitution. And adults can be trafficked. An adult can be a victim of human trafficking if force, fraud, or coercion is involved. And that's what the federal and the state law say,
okay.
that that person is now considered to be a victim of human trafficking because of force,
Gotcha.
fraud, or coercion.
Okay. Okay. So what
And
are some?
I'm sorry, any person under the age of 21, the law changed. It used to be under the age of 18, but
Mm-hmm.
in 2023, the law in Louisiana and other states has changed to include anyone under the age of 21 now. They are considered always to be a victim of human trafficking if they are involved in the sex industry at all in any way, because they are considered to be minors under the age of 21. If you think of a 19-year-old, they're not really an adult and probably are being forced into this lifestyle.
So, in discussing this, Lori, we again see the movies on TV with the cartel and the mafia and all these, high criminal associations in different countries and all of that. Is that an aspect of trafficking as well? Or is it kind of like, they are the industrial traffickers versus, this mother with the 4-year-old and a 6-year-old? What are the
That
same?
is a form of human trafficking. When you're talking about the mafia and the cartels and all these, these big criminal industries,
Mm-hmm.
that is human trafficking. And they're also involved in a lot of labor trafficking. I mean, if you think about the drug cartels, they're using people to harvest their product and they're not getting paid. They're being labor trafficked. A lot of people end up being kidnapped and taken away. The ones that end up in Mexico are the ones that we really don't ever hear from again. And it's usually the cartels that have gotten a hold of them and they're being sex trafficked
Okay. So you said 4 was the youngest and
that
60.
I've seen.
Okay. And 60 was the oldest. What was the situation with the 60-year-old?
She was actually a person that had some mental health issues and was not really able to take care of herself that well. And a predator found her and actually started forcing her into sexual activity for money. And of course, the perpetrator kept the money, did not give any of that money to the woman. which is the case in many, many instances. They don't ever see a dime of that money. The victims don't. Um, but she was very vulnerable and did not have family members to help or take care of her or help her to make good decisions for herself. And the trafficker found her and
Lord.
started exploiting her.
Mm, mm, mm. Were you all able to help her?
Yes, fortunately.
Praise the Lord. And you were you able to help the 4 and the 6?
Yes, that actually,
The mother went to jail?
the mother was prosecuted, and those two girls, she actually lost her parental rights, and the two young ladies are doing very well now.
Praise the Lord. Oh, Lord, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. Well, what are some, this is just a lot. And I felt like this when I went to your conference. You know, this issue, there's so many things that's happening in the world, that when you sit down and just have a dialogue about it, you see how huge it is. But they have so many huge things that exist. You don't have the ability to gain an understanding or knowledge of it. So, with your expertise in helping all of us understand this, um, there's a question I want to ask you at the end, to advise us how we should try and garner to the best of our ability, staying safe. But what are some of the biggest challenges that law enforcement face?
Oh
Is
my
it,
goodness.
they find the traffickers and the girls say we wanted to do this, so gotta let them go, or
And our law enforcement, and we're talking about from federal, Louisiana State Police, Marshal's Office, and local sheriff's department and police departments, they are amazing. And they are so savvy about what to look for and how to find victims. And of course, there are special divisions of law enforcement that that's what they specialize in. So, of course, they get a lot of training, and they even get a lot of training in being sensitive when they do find victims, even if they're adults.
yes,
And we were fortunate enough a few years back to be able to sit in or go to a sting operation with law enforcement, and we were able to see some of the young women. Unfortunately, it's usually the young women that are arrested, and the pimps get away scot free because the women are obviously more visible.
mm-hmm.
And we were there to offer help to the young women as they came in, as they were being processed. Um, and again, it just broke my heart to see these women and think about what got them to that point in
Mm,
their lives.
yes,
So law enforcement are they know what to look for. And again, with the arrest here recently, they're getting where they can catch the exploiters and the perpetrators, which is what we are hoping for. The
mm,
more we can get the pimps and the exploiters and the traffickers and the people that are behind the scenes forcing these victims into this activity, the better off our society will be. And
definitely.
once they begin to be prosecuted, then we can maybe start to see this activity slow down.
So, how long has human trafficking, I guess that term, been in existence?
It's been in existence as long as I can remember. It just wasn't, 20 years ago, it wasn't recognized at all. They
Mm-hmm.
used to call, young girls child prostitutes,
Mm-hmm.
and that is just not appropriate at all.
Mm-mm.
So it's really been probably since about 2012, 2013, right around in there, that we all started to get better educated
Mm.
about victims and what they were going through and how they were groomed into this life. And we began to understand what the correct terminology should be, but also being able to talk to victims, being able to talk to people that have been through this life and have been through the horror of being trafficked. And a lot of times, human trafficking and domestic violence go hand in hand. We have to remember that. So,
Mhm.
just being able to really talk with victims and survivors, and I like to say not just survivors, but thrivers,
Yes, Lord.
because some of these women have overcome so much and they are thriving.
Mm. Oh, that is such a
That's the best education we can ever get.
that's awesome. When you say domestic violence is second kin, I guess, to trafficking, is that when the individual is beating the woman and making her go out and sell herself?
When we talk about force, fraud, and coercion, that can
Mhm.
take many, many different forms. Some pimps will prey on people that have substance abuse problems, and they have to do the sex acts in order to continue supporting their habit,
Mhm.
or they get them hooked on drugs so that they can better control them and also keep them in the life. Pimps not only have to be savvy enough and manipulative enough to get people into that life, they have to be able to keep them in
Mhm.
that life in order to
Mhm.
make money, right? They've
Mhm.
got to keep them there.
Mhm.
So they've got to know how to keep them in that life. And they can do that through substance abuse, or they can do that through physical force, threatening physical harm, threatening pets, threatening their children, threatening family members, or threatening to go after a younger sister. I mean, there are just many ways to manipulate and keep someone in that life because they're terrified that if they leave, they will die, or
Mm.
someone they love, care about, will be harmed.
Yes.
I
Mm.
mean, what would you do to protect your children and your grandchildren?
Seriously.
You know,
So if somebody is in this position, and just like you said, I mean, you feel like there is no hope. If you're threatening me and my children, and uh, if I show up at the police station, what do I say?
a lot of victims won't go to the police. They won't ask for help because they don't trust anyone in authority. They don't trust law enforcement because they've been so brainwashed to believe that those people will do them harm.
Mm.
And the way most victims are found is law enforcement actually finding them online. And then that's when some of the social service agencies, like one of the things that we can do and other agencies do, is actually come in and help law enforcement talk to the victims. And the biggest hurdle that we have right now is having a safe place for victims to go,
Really?
especially juveniles.
Okay. And what type of places do you try and get them in?
Sometimes it's hospitals.
Wow.
Sometimes a victim may appear at an emergency room. This is why we do so much training for medical staff.
Yeah.
They may show up at a hospital room in the emergency room because they've been injured.
Mhm.
And the pimp does not want to have to take them to the hospital, but they are kind of in a situation where they have to.
Mhm.
And the pimp will not allow that woman to be alone so that she can talk to medical staff alone. The medical staff has to recognize if there's a strained relationship,
Mhm.
or if the pimp is doing all the talking, the
Mhm.
man is doing all the talking for the woman. She
Mhm.
doesn't have her own personal identification on her, the man has it, those kind of things. And then the medical staff just has to get that man out of the room so they can talk to the woman. And if she is sometimes desperate enough to get out or want out, she may ask for help. And that's when medical staff or whoever discovers that this person is being trafficked, they have to know how to take action and what to do. And there are many hospitals in our area that will admit a victim of human trafficking in a secure area of the hospital so that they can be safe.
Yes. Lord have mercy.
That is the initial biggest need, is safety.
So besides a hospital, I mean, because I'm imagining, even like the 4-year-old and the 6-year-old, and a lot of times if an individual that's faced with a CPS case, well, the CPS agent come in, take the kids out of the house. The first thing they're going to do, is there any family that can take care of them? If there is none, looking for foster care. So do your victims sometime go into foster care, which is an entirely different animal in and of itself?
The law has changed so much. When John Bel Edwards was our governor, he and his wife were actually committed to doing a lot of work in the human trafficking field. And there were some laws that were put into place, some laws that were changed, penalties that were enhanced, and Governor Landry is continuing with that work. And one of the things that changed is that it is now mandatory, if a juvenile is being trafficked, that case must be reported to the Department of Children and Family Services. And so, there's the DCFS hotline. You can also report online. So that is also something that has happened to help us with juveniles. That report is made, and we actually had a young lady. My office is located in a wonderful place called the Harbor, which is off of Ninth Street, which is a place for children, youth, and families to get services. And I could go on all night about the services that are here. I do want to mention there's a food pantry here because of, the situation that we're in right now.
Yes.
But there's a food pantry and a uniform closet right here at the Harbor. But we actually had a young lady that came to the Harbor by herself, a juvenile. And she didn't tell us straight out. I don't know if she even knew what human trafficking would have meant. But during the course of talking with her, we gathered that that's what was happening to her. And the only place that she had to go was into foster placement. And so we did get DCFS involved, and they were able to find an emergency placement, thank God, for her. Unfortunately, she did not have any family that she could go with that was safe.
But we hear these stories about foster care. So it's like 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. If you put a victim in a foster care family that's just looking for a check.
Yeah. We've heard of cases all over the United States where children were actually trafficked out of foster care. And that's, you're taking them out of one bad situation and putting them in another.
It does.
But unfortunately, that's really the only resource we have at this point.
So tell me this, Lori, the way they have, like either physically or mentally challenged individuals, and a few of them will live in a home, and they'll have CNAs coming and they do their washing, their cooking, the whole house is run, and they have, 5 clients or so. Is there something like that that could be implemented whether it's an organization or an individual that I guess would have to go through a series of background checks, but they have the capacity to have a staff with a and they have a 5-bedroom home and they can
Mhm.
meet the needs of these victims that need to be safe. Is that something that could be implemented possibly?
It certainly could. Unfortunately, we're talking about a lot of money. It takes a lot of money to run a facility and to house children.
Mhm.
And the licensing process to have a home for children is very difficult, as it should be. The state wants to make sure that if somebody or a facility is going to house children, that they're going to be safe and that they're going to be taken care of and that certain standards are met. So the state licensing process is difficult to go through, and also funding is very difficult to obtain. There are federal grants, there's state grants, there's law enforcement grants,
Mhm.
those type of things. But if you're talking about operating a home, you may have a budget of $1 million a year. It takes quite a lot of money to operate a facility. When we had Johnny Gray Jones Youth Shelter, that was a wonderful resource for law enforcement to be able to take juveniles that were ungovernable, not obeying their parents, running away, that type of thing, but also a place where we could actually house trafficking victims that would be safe. And that facility closed, I think 3 years ago, due to funding. And that is a tragedy.
Mm, mm, mm. That is a tragedy. Is there anything that communities can do and individuals play a role when it comes to raising the awareness and preventing human trafficking in our local area, besides national, just our local area? What is it that we need to be looking for? And I'm an analytical person, so I ask 1,000 questions to make sure I completely understand it. So, you know, what what is it that we need to be, I don't want to say looking for, or what are some of the signs that you can possibly gather that a person is being trafficked?
I think one of the best things people in our community can do is be aware and receive training like this, like doing community trainings. And the Free Coalition offers free trainings to any group at any time.
Awesome.
And we've gone to churches, we've gone to like civic groups and the Rotary and um, the Optimist clubs and things like that to offer training. But the community needs to be aware. And the hard part about that is this is not very pleasant to talk about. People really don't
Hard
want
talk.
to know sometimes that this is actually happening in our community.
It is.
And people don't realize that Caddo Parish is actually third in the state of Louisiana for the number of reported human trafficking cases. Yes.
Lord.
We are only second and third only to East Baton Rouge and Orleans Parish.
Orleans is one.
Orleans is first, East Baton Rouge is second, and Caddo is third. Now think about our proximity to I-49 and I-20. Makes it very easy to get in and out and around our state
Yep.
very quickly. And we've seen young ladies and young boys and transgender brought into our state from other places. We've also, mostly what we see is children that live here and go to our schools. These children live here in Shreveport, Bossier, and the little surrounding small towns. We had a case of human trafficking in Elm Grove a few years ago. And Elm Grove, is a very small town in Bossier Parish. But traffickers love to fly under the radar. They
Mm.
like to go to these small towns because they're less likely to be discovered. So awareness is really the key. People need to be aware that this is happening. These are children that live right here. They go to our schools. They may go to our churches. They may be your next door neighbor, and you don't even know that that's happening to them. And some things that you can look for example, when we do training for teachers, teachers see our kids every single day that
Mm-hmm.
they're at school, and they can notice changes in behavior and appearance. So if you know a child through church or neighborhood or school, or you just kind of see them around the neighborhood and you start noticing they're dressing differently,
Yes.
they're dressing provocatively,
Gotcha.
they might be standing outside looking like they're waiting for someone to pick
Mm,
them up.
mm, mm, mm.
That should make your radar go up. If you see a young lady that's walking around just kind of back and forth on the street like she's waiting for somebody and she's dressed inappropriately, again, you start seeing changes in that child's behavior
Mhm,
or appearance. Maybe a child who was very happy and easygoing is now seeming depressed
mhm.
and easily angered and is triggered very easily. There's
Mm,
something going on with that child.
gotcha. Got
Um, if you see, especially, we want to talk a lot about children, but even grown people, if you start seeing changes in their patterns of behavior, we know that with children being truant from school and being a runaway, running away from home increases their risk exponentially
mhm,
because they're not where they're supposed to be. And if you think about a child who has run away from home, their basic needs aren't being met.
mhm,
They don't have food, shelter, water, those things that they need, and they are very vulnerable for a trafficker to find them. So, truancy and runaway behavior is a very high risk factor for trafficking. Also, when we would staff cases, we would do a risk factor schedule on every single child that we talked about. And one of the most common risk factors that we found among children that were being trafficked or were high risk for being trafficked was lack of parental supervision and control. Those children that were not being parented were the highest risk for trafficking.
mm. Not being parented.
Yes,
Okay, so the mother that has a lot of children and doesn't have the ability to impart into them individually, so they have more for not parented.
not parenting. And think about the mom that's working two jobs trying to make ends meet.
That one.
That's not completely her fault. She's trying to make ends meet. She's got to work two jobs, and she
Yep.
may leave the oldest child in charge of the other children, and those children have a lot more freedom than they should have, and they might be outside doing things, meeting people that they shouldn't meet, and
Yes.
there you go.
Lord. Okay.
Right. They're ripe for a problem.
I got you. All right, Lori. Lord, I don't know how to thank you for being on the show. Lord, we sincerely appreciate everything that you've said tonight. If you could just say a few services that the harbor has and how we can contact you, and if we want to volunteer or get the training or anything, just put it out there.
Absolutely. The harbor is amazing, and it is located at 3004 Knight Street, Building 6. Now, there's a lot of construction on Knight Street right now, so
Mm,
your best bet is to come from Shreveport Barksdale up Knight Street past Walmart and enter into driveway 4 and kind of scoot over to Building 6. And you'll see the sign. There's a big sign out front that says the harbor. This was actually conceived and created with a partnership. Volunteers for Youth Justice is a wonderful nonprofit in our area, and a partnership with the Caddo Parish School Board and the District Attorney's Office. And this place, like I said, is amazing. It's open to any family that needs help. If they're having problems with their children, being ungovernable. Families in Need of Services is located here. They can come in and talk with a Family Need of Services officer at any time. Also, the Youth Empowerment Center is here, where police officers can drop off children, young people, teenagers that have committed minor offenses like shoplifting, curfew violations, truancy, maybe getting in a school fight or something. And the parents come to pick those children up. They're going to receive an evaluation on what services are needed for that family.
Wow.
So there are a lot of counseling agencies here that can provide services. Like I said, there's a food pantry, there's a uniform closet, court appointed special advocates are here. Faith and Fostering are in this building, and they provide housing for children aging out of foster care. There are just so many wonderful people here that are here to help children, youth, and families, and it is a wonderful resource. I would encourage families that are struggling in any way to come to the harbor and see what
Yeah,
services are available.
definitely. That's
Absolutely. We also, Volunteers for Youth Justice has a class that happens every month called Power of Choice, and that's one of the venues where I speak to kids and parents about trafficking and share those stories and share that information with both the young people and the parents that come to these classes. And those are court ordered, they're through the juvenile court system
hmm,
and they're court ordered. But again, we can do training for anybody, anywhere. And I love to come to the SPAR centers and boys and girls clubs and anywhere that children are seeking to have activities and talk to kids about trafficking and how to stay safe, and
awesome.
and talk to parents about how to keep their children safe and to be aware of what's out there. So you can reach the Free Coalition through our website. It's www.freecoalitionnwla.com. I'm going to say that again,
Mhm.
www.freecoalitionnwla.com. You can also reach me through email, and it is Laurie, Laurie, at freecoalitionnwla.com. So that's my email. And then my phone number is 318-458-1702. If you would like to request a training or additional information, I also want to mention our amazing conference that we have every year in June. It is the South Central U.S. Human Trafficking Conference. It is June 4th and 5th this coming year at LSUS from 8 to 5 the first day, 8 to 12:30 the second day. It is free to attend and open to the public. We will be offering registration on a platform called Whova. That's WHOVA. And of course, we will be advertising and putting out flyers about that conference very, very soon. And you came to that conference, Dr. Phoenix, and you know the amazing speakers that we have. We have survivors that come and talk and tell their stories, and other professionals in this field that come and talk about trafficking and even the demand and stopping the demand and how to protect our boys, and um, just some amazing information. And we do offer CEUs and CLEs at that conference.
Wonderful. Well, Lori, again, thank you so much. We truly appreciate you sharing your time, your knowledge, and all of your understanding. I think we understand better now what human trafficking actually is. Thank you also to all of our virtual audience. I think we may have had some problems with Facebook Live and we were only on YouTube, but we'll try to get it over there to Facebook some kind of way. But please help us share our platforms on YouTube and Facebook. We're just a mouth for the people, dissecting information and getting expert knowledge. We encourage any organization, individuals, or agencies that are interested in partnering with us at Let's Talk Shreveport. Please call us at 318-734-9084, or you can email us at admin, ADMIN, at todcdc.org, or just inbox us on the To Our Destiny Community Development Corporation's Facebook page, because we really need your help and support. We look forward to seeing you week after next for another great discussion that you know you don't want to miss. Thank you, Lori, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Dr. Phoenix. I appreciate you inviting me.
Thank you.